In Shakespeare's Macbeth, Macbeth slash Lady Macbeth and Malcolm slash Macduff each present two opposite views of masculinity. The former view is absolute and unwavering, whereas the latter view is nuanced and sensitive. Lady Macbeth, in seeking to convince Macbeth of the need to kill Duncan, a move motivated by no higher teleology or purpose, but only vaulting ambition, which o'erleaps itself and falls on the other, says, when you durst do it, when you were to kill Duncan, then you were a man. And to be more than what you were, you would be so much more the man. The subtext of her quote is that decisiveness is what makes you a man. And this makes sense because decisiveness requires courage, judgment, and conviction, all traits becoming of a man. She presents an absolute, almost scientific view of chivalry. It's a three-item, rank-ordered list of the most manly to the least so. Deciding to do something and then doing it is the most manly. You would be so much more the man. Simply deciding to do something, when you durst do it, then you were a man, straggles behind. And the least masculine of all, of course, is deciding to do something and then changing your mind. Wouldst thou live a coward in thine own esteem? However, it makes no difference in Lady Macbeth's schema whether he had resolved to kill an orphan or save a puppy from a burning building, just that he had decided to do it and then followed through. Malcolm's conception of masculinity, in contrast, is based on the concept of duty. This is why Malcolm in Act 4, Scene 3 tests Macduff to see whether his loyalty is to his own ambition or to the welfare of his brethren, before deciding whether to invade Scotland and destroy Macbeth with him. Malcolm and Macduff's dialogue after Macduff finds out his wife and children have been killed presents a far more nuanced view of chivalry than Lady Macbeth, urging him to dispute it like a man, meaning he ought to use his emotions to motivate him to do what he had resolved to do anyway, i.e., destroy Macbeth and invade Scotland. Macduff responds, not rejecting Malcolm's suggestion, but extending it, saying, I shall do so, but I must also feel it as a man. I cannot but remember such things were that were most precious to me. The synthesis of Macduff and Malcolm's viewpoints yields a very sophisticated conception of masculinity. Malcolm says, be this, Macduff's emotions, the whetstone, that which sharpens and refines of your sword. Let grief convert to anger. Blunt not, do not reduce the force or sharpness of the heart. Enrage it. Meaning, he must convert his grief into an endless motivation to do what is right and to avenge his murdered family. Although both Lady Macbeth and Malcolm/Macduff's conception of masculinity emphasize decisiveness and valor, only Malcolm and Macduff stress that this valor must serve some higher end, rather than self-serving ambition. Macbeth killing Macduff's wife and children for seemingly no reason is a clear expression of the former conception, an act of sheer violence, cruelty, and Machiavellianism, whereas Macduff resolving to defeat him and thus to restore the order of natural law / the great chain of being, and the teleological ledger in which all debts are paid, and there is, in the end, cosmic justice, and get justice for his murdered family, is an expression of the latter. Further, Macbeth's conception of gender roles, while superficially resembling Malcolm and Macduff's honor-based and chivalrous masculinity, is only what he has been led to believe at any particular moment by his wife, and he is thus the receptive rather than the active partner in his relationship with Lady Macbeth. Macbeth is entirely at the heel of Lady Macbeth, who superficially resembles Satan in the play, it should be noted, as the woman who has successfully tempted and lured Macbeth into committing atrocious acts of violence and sin. This contrasts with Macduff, who serves as a stand-in for teleology and cosmic justice, confronting Macbeth, a self-serving Machiavellian tyrant. Macduff's metaphysical function can be thought of as the find out portion in the fuck around and find out dialectic of the great chain of being. The drama which will unfold in Act 5 is not only one of two fictional characters, but of two opposing forces, light versus darkness, good versus evil, God versus Satan. As Malcolm points out, it is not a superficial conflict between two people, but rather a divine battle, as the powers above put on their instruments. The question of what does it mean to be a man takes on ultimate cosmic significance in the ultimate question of what does it mean to be a human. This is the sort of question which Shakespeare's Macbeth asks us to consider. This is who we are called to be as a man in the CTMU framework, a well of salvation, strength, and light from which all can draw. A rock, strong and motivated to do the will of God, not for the sake of any reward or ulterior motive, but because he is God. Chris Langan urges us to participate in our own destiny. He writes that to shift humanity towards a better world, we must envision and pray for a better world, lifting your mind up high enough to see over the indoctrination and disinformation which conceals it. Because human beings are God's tools of necessity, the only means of action through which the obstructions can be removed and the vision realized, we must also cultivate a willingness to be moved by our own prayer, to do what is necessary to lift the world out of its current blighted state. The vision of a rational and healthy future based on a deep understanding of what reality is and how we relate to it. In short, we must envision a positive future world based on logos. Seek a global convergence of ideology and spiritual unity by supporting the only work that can logically bring it about. No ideology can succeed if its followers retreat into their own navels and let it be eradicated by competing ideologies. A real man fights for truth and spirit, and as a co-creator with God to bring about true and good order, with the light of natural law and duty and honor as buckles in his belt. The great man Marcus Aurelius said, "Love mankind, follow God, and it is enough to remember that law rules all. Let the light shine forth in the darkness, and the peace of our Father in heaven be upon you." Like and subscribe. Peace. You can go to megafoundation.substack.com to subscribe to the Mega Foundation, Chris and his wife, Dr. Gina Langen's organization, their teleologic newsletter, and chrislangen.substack.com to subscribe to Chris Langen's Ultimate Reality. That is the most important thing you can do right now for the CTMU movement. Right now, this minute, both will, as always, be linked in the description. God bless.